Well, this is, I guess, uncensored.
I guess.
Now, I know when this video drops, it will still technically be the month of April, but folks, I just wanted to get out in front of it and get ready for the return of everyone's favorite themed month on this channel, Hulkamania.
I wanna be a Hulkamaniac. Have fun with my family and friends.
And we are going to kick things off in historic fashion with WCW's inaugural uncensored pay-per-view from 1995, March 19th to be exact, at the Tupelo Coliseum in Tupelo, Mississippi. This show was nominated by Ron Gleason over at patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret. Every match on this show is a gimmick match. That is the theme of Uncensored. It's supposed to be unsanctioned by WCW. I actually love this great line by Mean Gene Okerlund during a control center to describe the unsanctioned nature of this show, where he says, "These matches were unacceptable to the powers that be at WCW. That's why this show is a non-sanctioned event." I love it. It's unacceptable to the powers that be. On surface going, well, this card sucks. Why do we want this? Get rid of it. But I think that, I was 10 years old when this show came out, and I wasn't watching then, but I think that if I was watching in 1995 and I saw a commercial for this show where it's like, there's no rules, everything is, oh my God, people, they could bleed and they could use weapons, they could do whatever they want. Like, my imagination would fill in the gaps for that, and I would have dead ass believed that this was truly an unsanctioned show, and I would have been like, oh my God, I can't wait for them to break each other's arms in this thing. And yes, 1 year later, I would have absolutely believed that there was a pay-per-view in which, professional bodyguards would fight convicts on Alcatraz, and I would have bought that shit too. Just under 5,800 people in the Tupelo Coliseum there. The show got 180,000 pay-per-view buys, the same number as Super Brawl the previous month, which in and of itself was a darn good number, and especially because this was, again, the inaugural, the first ever uncensored, a very unproven brand, and for it to do that kind of number, very impressive. It's uncensored, it's totally different, but we're all gonna wear tuxes and produce the show the exact same way we produce all our shows. Tony Schiavone, Mike Tenay, and Bobby Heenan welcome the viewers. And the big storyline with this show is, where's Jimmy Hart? Because on the main event, the pre-show hour before the pay-per-view, Vader showed up with Jimmy Hart's jacket. Oh no, it's Hulk Hogan's best friend, it's his manager. What's gonna happen to him as we get close to this strap match between the Hulkster and Vader? And oh my God, think of poor Jimmy Hart. Where is he at? But you know what? Hulk Hogan, as we saw on main event, has the ultimate surprise. It's a buff Ultimate Warrior ripoff in a loincloth, partially obscured by some smoke, as Hogan tears his shirt for the second time in a 1 hour block. This was the first view we got of the Renegade, and there's a lot more to talk about him as we get to the main event. But there's still a whole rest of show to cover here, so how will the first ever Uncensored go? A night full of gimmick matches. Anything can happen. No rules. It's gonna be crazy. Someone could die on this show. You don't know, but you gotta buy on pay-per-view to watch. And boy, we start things off hot with the King of the Road match as the natural Dustin Rhodes takes on the Blacktop Bully. Some of you might recall my pay-per-views from before this time when the Blacktop Bully, Barry Darso, Repo Man, Smash, call him what you will. He was debuting as this member of the crowd who just kind of yelled at everyone indiscriminately. Eventually, he actually gets his hands on Rhodes, sitting from the crowd area, gets arrested, and then who bails him out but Colonel Rob Parker. He bails him out for $75,000, and so now the Blacktop Bully is a part of the stud stable and is indebted to Colonel Parker, and just continuing this feud here between the two of them. So it's going to be a match fought on the back of a flatbed truck driving very fast down the highway, and the first person to blow the horn is going to be the winner of the match. They're going to have to wrestle and fight on this moving truck, and there's a helicopter in the air, and there's a car driving alongside getting shots like close up. They have cameras on either end of the flatbed, and they got police escort to make sure that they're able to, do their thing. And so it's a very big production to start things off. This was a pre-taped thing. This was actually filmed a couple of days earlier in Atlanta, or in a rural area of Atlanta, somewhere nearby. And yeah, it was edited down for reasons we'll explain in a little bit, but here it goes. We come to the match in progress. Dustin is already almost right up to the horn when Bully cuts him off. They're fighting in bales of hay, and the whole match, like this match, it goes for about 13 minutes, and it's just these two going back and forth the entire time. They're fighting over here, they're fighting over there, and all these repeat moments where they're trying to go for the horn, they get cut off. We can see at this point that Dustin is bleeding, and more on that point later. A bale of hay to the dome, and I love they point out that the car could stop at any time while they're wrestling here, and they can totally throw things off. And Bobby Heenan is a joy. I always say this whenever I review the shows, but he really is in full force here. He's so funny all night, and especially in this matchup here, where he talks about the truck could stop. And he goes, oh, could it stop to pay a toll? I don't know what truck drivers do. Dustin throwing some water at Bully, the truck blatantly running a stop sign as it makes a turn. Bully is now bleeding. He's up on a post and takes this big heel bump into the hay when the truck slows down. That was pretty funny. At one point, the truck runs over this piece of wood, and Heenan goes, is that Dustin's leg? Dustin has now procured a trough. That's what he and his dad eat out of, Heenan says. The truck has come to a stop at the intersection for the church bus. Oh, how nice of them to stop for that. Then Barry Darsow, at one point, he's climbing the fence again, and he gets crotch, Dustin's pulling his leg down, and Barry makes the funniest, oh no sound I've ever heard. They're just doing a lot of the same shit at this point. They're both fighting near the horn. Bully with the eye poke of doom, sending Dustin tumbling. Bully blows the horn and wins this very silly match. I'm gonna give it -1 star. I give him an A for effort because, this is truly something different in a wrestling show. This feels like something that Jerry Lawler would have done at some time as well. But man, you could do a match like this today, and I think it would actually go a lot better, because think of the advancements in technology. You could have a drone, you could have millions of cameras, so many cameras in that truck instead of just 2. You wouldn't even need a roadside car driving and getting an angle as well, because you'd have so many angles for a fraction of what WCW no doubt paid to produce this whole thing. And it would look tons better, probably just go better in general. So I think if you did it today and had a good reason for it and maybe made it a cinematic match or something, I think you could have something interesting with a match like this. But the fallout to this match is way more impactful than the match itself, because Rhodes and the Blacktop Bully were both fired from WCW, along with the match producer, Mike Graham, because they went against the company's bloodletting policy. They bled, and they said, no, that's bad, and so they actually had to chop up a lot of the match with editing to obscure the blood as best they could. And so that makes the match look a bit more jumbled. And Dusty Rhodes actually suffered politically for this too. He was taken off TV as a result of this happening. They would all eventually be brought back, although Dustin Rhodes a bit later than the rest, because as we know, once he was fired from WCW, he would go to the WWF and become Gold Dust. Mike today is in the promo zone with the Stud Stable. Arn Anderson, the TV champ, putting over the last match as the start of a clean sweep. That's probably the nicest thing you could say about that match, yes. He says that Johnny B. Bad putting on the boxing gloves is a sign of desperation, and it handicaps him against a wrestler, and that Arn is the greatest wrestler in the world today. Colonel Parker says he's proud of Bully and saying the $75,000 he spent to get him out of jail was worth it. He says Jim Duggan is shaking in his boots over Meng. He's going to let Meng utilize 9 forms of martial arts on him and make his cross eyes stay that way. And oh boy, folks, it gets better from here, because our first live bit of in-ring action is a martial arts match as the man called Meng takes on Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Meng has completed his transformation because he debuted in WCW a while earlier as the silent bodyguard of Colonel Parker. He absorbed the wooden chair shot from Dusty Rhodes in the build-up to Fall Brawl. He's this big, tough son of a gun, and now he is officially transitioned from bodyguard to wrestler, and he's hired to have matches now in WCW. And so this is one of his first ones in the company, taking on Hacksaw Jim, who's dressed to the nines lines for this martial arts matchup. And speaking of which, look at the way Meng is dressed here. He's got the big robe on. He has some war paint. This look would not last very long. The guest referee for this martial arts contest is Sonny Ono, friend of Eric Bischoff's, and a while before he would become the selfie king we'd all know and love him for being. Duggan, dressed for a fight, he refuses to do any bowing. "I ain't bowing for no one, tough guy, USA!" Duggan very disrespectful to other customs here. Meng getting the first shot in, Duggan decides he's not going to sell for anything. He immediately takes his boot off. That fails. He takes the other boot off and uses it on Meng's foot to break up the nerve hold. There are a lot of nerve holds in this match, and there's a lot of no selling in general by Duggan. It's not as charming when he does it as when Meng does the no selling. And they are really emphasizing the martial arts thing as Heenan makes Sonny Bono jokes about the referee. Duggan taking a beating here. I love that apparently in martial arts matches they do the arm drop thing the same way they do in wrestling matches. Duggan fights out of it. He goes for a headbutt, but it hurts him more than Meng. He keeps coming back. Colonel Parker gets involved on the apron. Duggan grabs him. Ono grabs his other arm. Meng with the free kick to the head. Meng gets the win. I'm going to give it a half star out of 5. Oof. How many forms of martial arts did we end up seeing in that matchup? I counted at most 2 or 3. It's not getting any better as the show gets on. I mean, first the live fans had to endure, a 15-minute pre-tape thing on those monitors on the stage, and then they watch this match, which at least is dynamic and there's crowd involvement and like Duggan is selling to the fans and everything. But this is still not a great match. Stunning Steve Austin, somehow still in the company at this point. He's in the WCW Hotline Zone with Terry Taylor. "Look at my biceps. What? Did you see me on the pre-show? What?" Well, up next, a boxer versus wrestler match as Johnny B. Bad takes on the TV champion Arn Anderson. P.S. No titles are on the line in this unsanctioned show, but back in January, Anderson did beat Johnny B. Bad for the TV championship with the help of Colonel Parker. They've been fighting ever since with some return matches at Clash of the Champions and WCW Saturday Night. They had a lumberjack match at Super Brawl, but now it's boxer versus wrestler time. Of course, Johnny B. Bad has the boxing experience, the Golden Gloves experience before he became a wrestler, and you see him backstage with his trainer Rock Finnegan. "Dugga dugga dugga dugga, dear John Bad, how do you wrestle with boxing gloves on? Sincerely, Mike TNA." He openly admits he's at a disadvantage with the gloves. He makes it sound like he didn't want this match. But then he goes, "It's not about boxing versus wrestling. It's about Johnny B. Bad versus Arn Anderson." Like, yeah, you just kind of buried yourself going into this thing, so good luck to you. I do love this hype package for Arn here. He's got this new truck. He's going to tear it up in the muddy mountains. Some great sound bites from Arn in this thing, too. Just badass line after badass line.
"You want to jump on me? You got to go to the hospital. If you go, so what? That's the name of the game."
And as the match is about to start, they explain on the rules this match has 10 3-minute rounds with a 1-minute rest period. God, I hate this already. What are we doing? Round 1 begins. Johnny starts peppering in some body shots. Arn doing some great selling for those shots, but also doing a lot of great rope-a-dope as well. Round 1 concludes, and we chill for a minute. Great. Round 2, fight. Arn tries getting some wrestling moves in, but Johnny's just too quick. Shot after shot sends Arn crumbling, but he's able to answer the count. More of the same until round 2 is over. Arn says F it and hits a beautiful DDT on Johnny during the rest period, but I love this because, Johnny's selling it for less time than Arn is, and Arn's the one who gave the move. Arn is still, face down on the mat selling after Johnny's already taken the DDT. He's up, he's back in the corner, and his trainer's not even mentioning that. He's just going on with his day. You're doing so good with your jabs. You didn't totally get dropped on your head just now. Arn jumps Johnny again and takes control as the rest period ends. Arn is just beating the crap out of Johnny here. Colonel Parker wants Arn to $1 million baby his opponent. Arn throwing Johnny into the stool. We get a spine buster, but then Finnegan jumps on Arn. The match is still going. We're at the end of round 3, like it fucking matters anymore. We see Rock cutting the tape off of Johnny's glove. Arn gets into it with Finnegan again. He puts the bucket over Arn's head. Then Johnny with one shot with the bucket, another one without the glove. Arn knocked out cold and can't answer the 10 count. Johnny wins. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars out of 5. I think that this is actually, in terms of psychology, it's a really great story. We've seen it before when I reviewed stuff like the MMA rules match with Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle. We've seen it before with like the Piper and Bagwell boxing match 4 years after this at Bash at the Beach. That one's not great. I would say that the MMA fight was somewhat better, and I think this match here was closer to that than the boxing match, certainly. Like I said, the psychology was good, the storytelling was fine, and it was a great way to get Johnny B. Bad over, winning that blow-off, and, and Arn sold it great. I just love the way he sold the bucket punch and everything. I mean, the selling is ace, and I think that's why, like, the last 30 seconds really elevates this matchup for me. Mike Tenay is backstage with the Macho Man. He says, "What it is what it is," and that's about the last thing I could remember him saying before he just kind of goes off and says a bunch of other phrases and words. He goes, "I'll see you later," and then we go to our next match of the evening, and it's probably like, of all the matches where it's like, oh my god, it's uncensored, no rules, anything can happen, this is just a regular match as the Macho Man takes on the Avalanche. It's one part of the fallout from last month's tag match where Savage and Sting took on Big Bubba and Avalanche, but this is just kind of a follow-up from that. Savage with the jump early on, doing a lot of stick and move. Lance throws himself over the top rope. Randy follows up with a top rope cross body to the outside. A body slam attempt back in the ring goes awry, and that allows Avalanche to take advantage. A lot of drops and a suplex. Even it's a running drop kick, which is impressive. There's more fighting on the outside. Savage looking in rough shape. Avalanche continues to knock him onto the floor. Heenan is constantly concerned for his stamina. Sure enough, Macho with the guillotine, the bombs away. He goes for a sunset flip, but then Avalanche just sits on him, and a great line from Heenan where he goes, "I could hear the air leaving his body from both ends." Macho is somehow able to get another comeback going, but it's snuffed out. He takes another power slam. Avalanche goes for a second rope splash, but Savage moves. Another bombs away off the top. Suddenly in comes a tall, styling and profiling woman, throwing knife-edge chops, bleeding all over the place. Not really. Looking amazing in alligator heels. It's Ric Flair. Woo! And boy, he really put some effort into this bit. Not only is he just wearing women's clothing and a wig, he also noticed in the promo later on, he's got eyeliner and mascara. He's got nail polish on. Like, he really went all out in proving that he looked like a woman. Then in comes Hulk Hogan to the rescue. The baddies flee, and Savage wins by disqualification. Unsanctioned, uncensored, baby! I give it 2 stars out of 5. The match itself I thought was fine. It might have been better 3 years earlier in the WWF, but I thought Savage's like come from behind work and the way he was selling for Avalanche was good. Then we have Ric Flair showing up in a dress, beating up Savage, and it's not the last time we'll see Flair on this show, so it's like, what the hell is he doing getting involved in this? Like, setting up more stuff with he and Savage down the line. But yeah, it's just it's a weird ending to that match, and this show is only going to get weirder. Mike Tenay is backstage with the tag champs Harlem Heat and their manager Sister Sherry. It's a Texas Tornado match with the Nasty Boys, and Stevie Ray says it ain't nothing to it but to do it, and tonight it'll get done. Booker T is excited to be able to do whatever they want to in the match, and he says the Nasty Boys will be obliviated. Sister Sherry says they're going to leave the Nasties laying and strut their stuff and shake their derrieres. I don't think her part of the promo really matched the energy of the other two, if I'm being honest. What's happened to Jimmy Hart? Maybe you'll hear on the hotline. Maybe the Nasty Boys will tell you. I don't know. And now we go to the second half of the fallout from that Super Brawl tag match I mentioned earlier as Sting takes on Big Bubba. Now, a little bit before this, Bubba was the guardian angel. It was one of the many ways they tried getting around the whole copyright issue of, can we make Ray Traylor a cop in WCW? And so he's the guardian angel for a while, and then he turns heel, goes back to being Big Bubba, which was his JCP name, and he's going, I've traded in my red beret for a big old fedora. Somebody stop me. We're backstage with Sting. He's full of pep in Tupelo, and he's on his way to the ring. Woo! He goes to biting the fingies right from the start. Sting grabs Bubba's hat. He puts it on the ground, and it's not enough to have him stomp it. He does a giant leaping ass drop onto it. That is extra. Bubba wants to go for ring post-itis, but Sting brings him in instead. Sting goes for a leapfrog, dog, but we see this collision in the air. Sting appears to hurt his leg, and this great line from Heenan where he goes, "If you come to the hospital in this town with a bad leg, they'll shoot you." Bubba works over the leg. Sting gets beat up a good long time. Even when he fights back, he's too slowed down to capitalize. Bubba goes up top, but then he slips and falls. Whoops! Sting makes his comeback. He slams Bubba. Bubs gets caught in a sleeper, but he uses his tie to get out of it. Sting with a big top rope splash, still not enough. Bubba with an accidental chop block. That was pretty neat. Sting has some fight left in him. He goes for a slam, but his leg gives out. Bubba with the cover and the shocking win. I think in terms of just straight up a wrestling match, this is the best match of the night. I mean, like boxer versus wrestler, I give it the same rating. It's fun for a different reason. This is actually like a good wrestling match. And like, I think this is a fantastic showing of Bubba's abilities. I think he and Sting work well together. Sting's selling is great. I'm shocked at the finish, actually. It's just so kind of like out of nowhere to see something like that happen. My one nitpick is like so much for an anything goes match. I forgot to mention, this is billed as anything goes, but like nothing really fits that description in this matchup. Backstage, Brian Knobbs is screaming his head off. He says, "Are you ready for nasty sensation to be shoved right down your stinking throat?" Then in comes Jerry Sags. He screams as well. Brian Knobbs brings in a trash can and pretends to punch it. They are fired up. Up next, a Texas Tornado match. Again, not for the titles, but the tag team champions are involved here as Harlem Heat takes on the Nasty Boys. This is another matchup in their feud that they've been having for the last several months. This is not the blow-off. A lot of the matches you will see here on this show actually have like one more chapter at least coming up next month at Slamboree, and this is another, chapter in the Harlem Heat Nasty Boys rivalry. Sister Sherry comes out by herself. Where can Booker and Stevie be? Well, the champs hit with the attack from behind. The Heat work over Knobbs for a while. They get a spike pile driver, and the Nasty Boys get some 2-on-1 time on Stevie. They bring Sherry into the ring and give her the pit stop. They brawl to the outside. They're actually going to make their way to the concession stand in Tupelo. Say it ain't so. Stevie trying to subdue Sags with a rack of cotton candy. I love that. At this point in the match, it's just total chaos, and it's so hard to watch because they spill some slushy on the ground, and now it's like everyone is just slip sliding around the ring. Whoop, 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 whoop. All four guys and Sherry are just landing hard on their ass and on their hips because the floor is so slick. Mustard everywhere. That's a great callback. This is total madness, but the audience does not seem to care based on the sound we're hearing. Can we get back in the ring or what? They're still sliding around in this shit for 3 minutes. They finally destroy a funnel cake stand, and Heenan goes, "That's somebody's house." Knobbs slams Booker onto the wreckage, and the camera misses the pinfall. The Nasty Boys win. Sherry eats shit again on the floor. Ouch. I'm going to give it 2 stars out of 5. That match was painful to watch on multiple levels. Like, it actually breaks the streak I've been on lately of highly rated Nasty Boys matches. This was not a pretty sight. The Tupelo Concession Stand Brawl, the callback to the moment that some say kind of gave birth to hardcore wrestling in America. I thought that was kind of a nice reference there, but man, it was so tense just seeing them all slip around and falling on their hips on the bare concrete from the slick ground. Like, that was so terrifying. Not a technical classic, but fun in its own right. In the promo zone, Vader shoves Mike Tenay out of the way and screams at Hulk Hogan, telling him there's nowhere to run or hide. He must now pay for his stupidity. It's unsanctioned, and Ric Flair is in my corner. Flair's still wearing that makeup. He says he's not just another pretty face, and he says he's possessed with Hulk Hogan. I think he means obsessed, but he is just driven to madness after, being in the shadow of Hulk Hogan, being made to retire late last year, and now his goal is to be the master plan. He even says so here. "I've become the master plan. I've become the man possessed with taking you out of this sport forever." But whether he's possessed or obsessed, regardless, it is time for our main event here. It is a strap match between the WCW champion Hulk Hogan and Vader. Again, non-title and very different from a yappa pie Indian strap match, dude. Last month at Super Brawl, it was the first time meeting between these two. It did great numbers for the show, both locally and for buy rates. And earlier than that, at Halloween Havoc 94, Ric Flair was made to retire at the hands of Hogan, but has burst back on the scene, and he vows to stay involved in WCW even if he can't wrestle, and obviously he wants revenge against Hogan. But as the weeks have been building up to this, and as Flair's made it clear he's going to be in Vader's corner, Hogan says he's got the ultimate surprise, and of course all the speculation around possibly the Ultimate Warrior coming to WCW and helping Hogan. Oh my God, like, could that happen? Maybe, you never know. But then the best part about this is that, oh, the ultimate surprise. And just before Michael Buffer makes the introductions, Tony just goes, and of course, the ultimate surprise we know is a guy named Renegade. Wow, thanks, Tony. So like I said, Michael Buffer does the intros, and one of the first things he says is, this match is sanctioned by World Championship Wrestling. No, it's not, Michael. This is an unsanctioned show, remember? We get this standoff 2-on-1, then we hear some rip-off Warrior music, then we get the Renegade sprinting down and saving the day. This very obvious Warrior ripoff stalks Flair up the ramp, he blocks the punch, and then for the next 20 minutes it feels like we're just going to be seeing those two fighting. We got to talk about the look of the Renegade, like the big R on his face. When you look at it up close, it's not even like a cool font. It's not even like a font the Warrior would have used for the R, something jaggedy and cool. It's just this big ass, like sans serif have an ass R, like two-toned, red and yellow, a couple other like smudges on his face and whatever. His singlet has like Rena on the front and Gade on the back. He's Renegade as far as I'm concerned. The match begins. Heenan says Flair is possessed by Hogan. They're both doing it wrong. Flair tries to sneak in the ring and Renegade scares him off and wags a finger. This sucks. Do I focus on Hogan and Vader or Flair and Renegade? Flair goes in the ring. Renegade thinks about it but stops and lets Hogan stop him. Why are you there then? Then on the outside, Flair runs away from the Renegade. What the fuck are we doing? Later on, Vader hits his bomb. There's no referee apparently. Why don't we just have all four men in this thing at once? Renegade's only thing he's got in this match, when it's not punching people and standing around, it's just him going, Aah! Vader takes over with the strapations, dude, when a raggedy-ass beat-up Jimmy Hart finally emerges, as if this segment needs more people. Hart distracts Vader, Vader grabs Hart, Renegade just fucking stands there like an idiot, Hogan hits Vader with the chair. Why any of this? Hogan pulls Vader repeatedly into the ring post to start his comeback. They're fighting on the outside. We get another face-off with Flair and Renegade. Hogan pulls the strap back on Vader's taint and balls over and over again. Go away, Flair. Go away, Renegade. Both of you get your asses to the back and go away. We don't want you here. And at this point I'm going, where the hell is the referee? And only at this point on commentary, I think it's the first time they actually tell you, oh, by the way, the rules of the strap match is you gotta touch all four corners. So anyway, this dog shit match continues. Vader splashes Hogan in the center of the ring. Tony is telling us on commentary WCW is wiping their hands in this match. The hell you are, WCW! Vader with the big suplex, but Hogan hems up and gets to whipping. The boot, the leg drop, Hogan going to touch the corners, dragging Vader along the way. Suddenly, Vacant appears and decks Renegade with the chair, making him look like shit. Flair comes in with a chair shot attack of his own. It's 2-on-1. Flair hitting Renegade with the chair as well. Vader seems to have the match won, but Flair wants him to do more damage from the second rope. Hogan moves. Vader, who is no longer attached to the strap, it's worth pointing out, is down. Flair gets another wooden chair. Where are they getting these wooden chairs from? Hogan hems up again, beats up Flair with a yappa pie strap #1, dude. Then he attaches Flair to the strap, drags him around and taps the four corners, and the match ends. But Vader's the opponent and Flair's retired and he's wearing eyeliner? Like, what the fuck? What is happening in this matchup? What are we witnessing? Vader and Flair come in to beat Hogan up. Renegade runs in with the chair. What a useless piece of shit he's being. The Masked Man comes back in. He's got a chair and seems to be on the baddie side, but then Arn Anderson shows up tied up and waddling down the ramp. Then the other Masked Man decks Vader, and it's Randy Savage. What in God's name just happened? What a diabolical main event this was. I'm giving it -4 stars. Like, I love it for how bad it is, but I cannot in good faith heartily endorse this match either. It is such crap. They gave you 4 or 5 different storylines packed into one rancid turducken of a match. You got Jimmy Hart missing. He shows up partway through the match. We have the ultimate surprise. It's RENEGADE. He looks like crap, and like Flair's got to sell for him for 15, 20 minutes, and we have this whole back and forth with them. We've got one masked man. We have another masked man. And we have Ric Flair. We have all these moving parts, and there's no referee, and like it's such confusion. It's such bullshit. It's hilarious, but I hate it. That said, my review of WCW Uncensored 95 is an F for fuck, I hate this show. I can remember renting the VHS for this very early in my fandom. Like 1998, I was obsessed with wrestling. I was possessed, you might say. And I was just like, I was going to absorb whatever I could about wrestling. And I went to Hollywood Video and I found Uncensored 1995. Sure, I'll watch it. It's got Hulk Hogan on it. It's got Savage. And then you're watching it, and like, it's funny how little I recall from that VHS. I remember a lot of what I watched back in my first year of wrestling, but like, except for King of the Road match and then like that concession stand brawl, which I forgot all these years later, like where that was from. That's all I remember from watching on the VHS when I was like 13 or 14 years old. And man, like none of this shit holds up. I think, you know, a card full of gimmick matches, we've seen that work before. We know that can work. And I think that some of these gimmick matches would have been better if they changed like everything about them. You know, there was a lot that could have been done differently, a lot that could have been done better. But man, like so many whiffs, so many weird combinations, and so many stipulations that did not help the people involved. I think it's easily one of the worst executed pay-per-views I could see happening that didn't have a bunch of technical issues, and one with one of the most head-scratching and frustrating lol Hogan wins moments I think I've ever seen. But next time in the classic pay-per-view review, we continue Hulkamania with arguably the high point of Hulk Hogan's WWE comeback as we look at the night he won the Undisputed Championship with Backlash 2002. But what did you think of this review? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and hit that bell icon for all the notifications. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.